San Marino and always lose?
We want to change this. We work hard to win a match, and we must work hard because it's not easy for us, I think. Sometimes when we play a match and we lost a game, we cry at the end of the match. When we lost at the last minute, this is very difficult to take, but it's a part of the game for us.
There's obviously quite a lot about playing for San Marino that you enjoy, so let's be a bit more positive. What's good about playing for San Marino? Why do you enjoy it?
Because we play against players that we can watch on TV. Simply. During
Now keep to the left.
watch football match,
Now turn half left.
you are on the pitch with these people.
Who has been the biggest star that you've played against?
The biggest star, Eden Hazard, for sure. First of all, I'm a Chelsea fan. Play against him was super. And on the pitch, I see
Please follow the road for 2.1 miles.
who you watch on TV, but when you are on the pitch, you understand that the physique of Hazard was better than yours. So this is the difference.
And what about swapping shirts? What's the best shirt that you've got?
My favorite was BlackVue because I'm a Chelsea fan. I wanted Eden Hazard, but my teammates are faster than me to catch it. I go to BlackVue and say yes, okay, thank you.
Okay, so BlackVue was your second choice.
Yeah.
In your time with the national team, have you ever experienced a draw or a win?
I remember in the national under 21, I win a match against Wales. Yeah, it was an incredible night. It's 7 years ago, I think, but I remember this night like yesterday.
What was the score?
1-0, perfect.
And what about this game on Saturday, Alessandro? It's a real chance, isn't it? A real chance for you to experience victory in the senior team for the first time, and San Marino to experience victory after so many years.
I work hard for this. During the lockdown, the quarantine, I play every day at home with one thing on my head, the match against Gibraltar. We work hard every day for one thing, to win a match, and we do it, I hope.
And who can deny Alessandro a victory apart from Gibraltar supporters and players? That's the San Marino midfielder Alessandro Golinucci. And you played against San Marino, you even scored against them. But what was your approach when Scotland were playing them? How did you sort of think about the game, because it was, you know, a game that you were going to win?
Well, it's not unlike some games you see these days where you know you're going to be up against, you know, the parked bus. And even when you score a goal, they still stick in 9 men behind the ball. But it was frustrating, but that's part of the game. We've got better organised, you know, defensively and structurally over the years. But your physicality, as he mentioned, against Hazard, and your match intelligence should win the day. First time I played against them, we were 0-0, and it was an hour into the game. One of our journalists, Ian Archer, said, we looked at my watch and I realised we're drawing with a mountain. Because that's all San Marino is, basically a mountain where we've got a land around it. We managed, I came on as substitute, got penalty, we won 2-0 in the end. But you have to find a way around it, and that's exactly what my only other one, San Marino, went 5-0, last game I played against them. Scored 1, 3 assists, got a good goal chopped off, then dropped and never played for my country again. Thanks guys. Not bad about it, honestly.
Heather, I mean, you must have played in plenty of lopsided fixtures. Did you kind of see it as a waste of time because you were going to win? Or did you have a broader view, a sort of missionary view that, you know, you're doing your bit to improve the profile of the game in these new countries?
Well, I think it depends what we were competing for. If you're looking to qualify for the World Cup or Olympics, I don't think there's much missionary component to it. It's more, we need 3 points, we need to win the group, we need to progress through and qualify. But there was definitely some lopsided results in CONCACAF play on the women's side. weaker opponents in CONCACAF.
I'd love to see one line of a Nations League. I think it's been absolutely superb for the smaller countries. It's given them these games to play together. It has been a fantastic thing, and it's long overdue, well thought out. By the way, patting out your statistics, Heather, I scored 5 international goals, all against minnows. Estonia 2, Malta, San Marino, and the USA.
Well, I'm going to be far more prosaic and just say goodbye, because it's the end of the programme and we'll be back next week. So until then, from all of us, goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
World Football is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service.
This is BBC World Service, where Owen Bennett-Jones speaks to trailblazing journalists in a special series of assignments.
It's all about the story. It kind of propels you, pushes you along.
A journalist dedicated to exposing abuses of power in her native Pakistan.
You must have the spirit of an activist.
Find out what motivates Nazir Saeed Ali to work in journalism.
Assignment at bbcworldservice.com/assignment. And in 60 minutes, the newsroom with Nick Miles.
We delve into the massive online propaganda from the Islamic State group, updated often and growing. We hear how a great-grandmother in Belarus is challenging the riot police on the streets of the capital, and the long-awaited release of a Disney film that many are now saying,
Please turn right in half a mile.
Radio station.
In the coming hour, the ambitions of children born in what is now the world's largest refugee camp.
They wanted to be a doctor or they wanted to be a teacher, and interestingly some child, they wanted to be a shopkeeper because the shopkeeper have got lots of chocolate, so they think if they become a shopkeeper they can have lots of chocolate their own, so that's why they wanted to be a shopkeeper actually.
BBC Bangla's Shaniwaj Raki taking us behind the scenes in Cox's Bazar, plus the passport scandal in Vietnam. How did an MP foreign passport? And in our regular series My Hometown, we take you to Samut Prakan in Thailand.
So I was growing up, I remember having my life involved around this river lifestyle. I get to see people paddling the boat in the morning to sell food, and I even get to ride on the boat taxi to go to school.
That's up.
BBC News. Hello, this is Jerry Smith. Researchers in Britain say one of the largest collections of material published online.
Please turn right in 300 yards onto A400.
Digital library draws 10,000 visitors a month. From our security correspondent, Gordon Carrera.
The digital library was discovered by researchers after the death of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of the IS group, in October 2019. It contains more than 90,000 items, including documents and videos in at least 9 languages, with links on popular social media sites promoting its content. But even though the US and UK have been alerted to its presence, they have not been able to take it down, because the data is spread across a decentralized system rather than being located in a single place.
Work has officially begun on the biggest single infrastructure project in Europe, a high-speed rail link between London and the north of England. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the project, known as HS2, will boost economic growth and play a vital role in connecting English towns and cities. The Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, rejected criticism that the possible cost of more than $130 billion was a waste of money.
You're building these things for the future. You're not just building for next year or 10 years' time. You're building for the next generation, our children and their children. So I think in the end we'll find we'll be very pleased that we do have additional rail capacity in this country, and I think we need it. And if you like, today is a sign of confidence in the future of our country, and 22,000 jobs over the next few years building it as well.
The former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi is in hospital in Milan being treated for COVID-19. Our Europe regional editor Mike Saunders reports.
Silvio Berlusconi's Forza Italia party has stressed that his stay in the San Raffaele hospital in Milan is just a precaution. He's released a video saying he feels fine and is not in pain, but he is 83, an age that puts him well into the group most vulnerable to coronavirus. The city's main newspaper, Corriere della Sera, says he's receiving supplementary oxygen. That suggests the inflammation in both his lungs is hampering his uptake. His 30-year-old girlfriend, the Italian Member of Parliament, Marta Fascina, has also tested positive, as have two of his children.
White silence. A huge oil tanker on fire off the eastern coast of Sri Lanka is being towed further out to sea, amid fears that the blaze will be difficult to contain. Indian and Sri Lankan naval ships and helicopters have been trying to put out the fire. It began on Thursday when a boiler exploded, killing one crew member and injuring another. The vessel is carrying more than 250,000 tons of crude oil, but no leak has been reported. You're listening to World News from the BBC. A court in Moscow has rejected a legal challenge by supporters of the opposition campaigner Alexei Navalny after prosecutors declined to investigate how he came close to dying on a Russian domestic flight last month. Mr. Navalny's lawyers have said they'll appeal. He remains in an induced coma in a Berlin hospital, recovering from what German scientists say was beyond doubt an attack with a nerve agent. UN human rights experts have written to the Chinese government saying that its new national security law in Hong Kong threatens the freedoms that were guaranteed when the territory was returned from British control. In an open letter, they expressed concern that it will be used to silence opposition. They say parts of the law appear to criminalize any form of criticism of the Chinese government. The legislation has been widely criticized since it was imposed by Beijing in June. An Australian citizen held in China for 19 months has denied accusations that he's a spy. Yang Chong-jun, who was born in China, gave the defiant message through his lawyer, who was allowed to see him for the first time this week. He was held for more than a year without charge. The Chinese government has still not said exactly what he's accused of doing or when he'll face trial. Hua Chunying is a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman.
China is a country ruled by law. Chinese authorities overseeing this matter will strictly abide by the law and fully protect the legitimate rights of the person involved.
A computer hacker who exposed the financial underbelly of the world's top football clubs has gone on trial in Lisbon. Rui Pinto, who's 31, says he released a huge cache of confidential documents known as football leaks in the public interest. His actions triggered criminal investigations, and he faces 90 criminal charges, including computer fraud. BBC News.
Ulikumba The Fit For ugezwaho na David Amano. Gumana natwe.
Orkoze Chane, thank you very much, Pridham Sangayumva, for launching our program today. Pridham is a journalist with our Africa Great Lakes Service, one of many that make up the BBC World Service. I'm David Amano. You're listening to The Fifth Floor. In the coming hour, from Cyprus to St. Lucia, why Vietnam's elite are willing to pay huge sums of money for dual citizenship, and how to be a professional queen. Is there a secret to the success of Queen Sofia of Spain? But first, it's been 3 years since violence in Myanmar. Hundreds of thousands of Rohingya people to flee into neighboring.
Now turn right.
And relatives killed in what the international community condemned as ethnic cleansing. Most of the refugees settled in Cox's Bazar, now hosting the world's largest camp. Shanawaj.
Please take the third exit from the roundabout in 300 yards onto A4.
The displaced people. Rocky was back in the camp last month and made some new friends, like 3-year-old Naeem.
Naeem is a 3-year-old boy. He was born inside the camp in 26th of August 2017 when the violence started in the Myanmar, and his parents actually fled from Myanmar to Bangladesh on that night when the massacre started. So he was born inside the camp. That was a rainy day. His father told me he had to put a tarpaulin over bushes around him to protect the baby, newborn baby, but there was no food, no shelter, nothing, no house. in this harsh condition Naim was born.
So what's it like then interviewing a 3-year-old? How do you interview a 3-year-old child in a refugee camp?
You know what? He's very small child and he don't know much about the outsiders who live outside the camp. So when a man comes with a camera and other crews, he was a little bit afraid and he was shy to talk to the camera. So I had to spend nearly 2.5 hours with him. I buy some chocolate for him and I played with him football, and later he just sit behind his mother and then started talking.
He doesn't seem that shy in your video piece, and he's very, very articulate and able to express himself.
Yeah, because he was very interested and he was very excited to speak with someone who is not from the camp, but he can speak his own language, because most of the people, especially from television or other, many foreign people go there interview, then they speak English or they speak Bengali, which most of the children, they don't understand the Bengali or English. And I do speak Rohingya language as well, because I'm from Chittagong, which is not far from Myanmar actually. So it's very exciting for them when they see someone outside from camp and speaking the similar language they also speak. And of course I played with him, so you know how it's cooperate with a boy when you play with him. He felt, okay, it's a big child.
There's a football that comes into view. He loves playing football, and this football has got Lionel Messi's name on it.
Someone donated the ball to the kids inside the camp. He doesn't know much about Messi. He doesn't know what does goal mean, what does penalty, free kick. He doesn't know anything about football. He just know this is a ball and it's need to kick. That's it.
What about ambition? Did he express any ambitions? He's only 3, but he seems to have some.
You know what? They haven't seen much outside the camp. So especially the teacher, they are the hero, and the doctors, they are the hero for the child inside the camp. So they wanted to be a doctor or they wanted to be a teacher, and interestingly some child, they wanted to be a shopkeeper, because inside the camp there are lots of small shops. The shopkeeper have got a lots of chocolate, so they think if they become a shopkeeper they can have lots of chocolate their own, so that's why they wanted to be a shopkeeper actually.
You also spoke with Yasmin, who was 16 in 2017 when she crossed the border with her younger sister. What's the story there?
I met her before when she arrived in the camp. Her entire family was killed in the Rakhine state, and she and her younger sister managed to escape the violence. And later when they came to Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, another Rohingya family adopted them. So I knew their stories. Normally most of the Rohingya people, they do not get chance to school. But interestingly, Yasmin studied till class 10 in Rakhine. So it means she was from a very decent family who have got much money and power back home. But still, she had to leave her country, and she is much educated person. So that's why that was an exceptional case for me, because I have never seen such educated girl in Rohingya camp before. So I was interested to see after 3 years what change has happened in her life.
And what changes did you find in her life?
The main changes is she got a baby, actually, baby boy. So that's the major changes. Her life is a little bit settled inside the camp. She got married, and the family who adopt her, their elder children get married with Yasmin actually. Whenever a girl get married, she need to give a lots of money to the groom's family.
Dowry.
Dowry, yeah, which is very higher for the Rohingya people. She got married without any dowry, but she is now worried about her younger sister, because her sister cannot get married without dowry, because they need to give 2,000 to 3,000 pounds to the grooms, and if they cannot manage it, and it will be difficult to get married.
And what about her ambitions, Yasmin's?
She doesn't have much ambition actually. She shared me my life was ruined when I was left the Myanmar. So now my ambition is to raise my kids and get married my younger sister. So that's her ambition, and that's it.
So for girls like Yasmin, or even boys as young as Naim, would they see their lives now in Bangladesh, or do they still look to Myanmar?
What they're saying actually, if they don't have the citizen right in Myanmar, they will not have any future. And they are refugee here in Bangladesh, so they do not have any future here either. So what their demand is, they want to go back to their country with all citizen right, access to education, and they want all rights as other Myanmar citizens in their country. So that's what their dream. But it seems they are a little bit disappointed as well, because it's 3 years gone and still the hope is very little that they would go back to their country actually.
Rocky, if you don't mind, just take us behind the camera, behind the scenes, just for a moment, because you were filming obviously during COVID-19 restrictions. I noticed that Naeem's mother was wearing a mask, but his father wasn't. What's the situation in the camp?
The different organizations give them some personal protection equipment like mask, hand sanitizer, and everything. But it seems the Rohingya people, they do not bother about the COVID-19. I speak to few people and they think the disease is God's will. So if He give us, He will cure it. And I speak to some health worker. They try to educate the people about COVID-19, how to keep them safe and sanitize their house and everything. But it is really impossible to maintain the social distance inside the camp because they lived in 10 feet by 10 feet house where 6 to 7 people lived together. It was feared that there will be a major outbreak inside the camp. But later it's found there are limited infection than it was feared, and only 6 died inside the camp. More than 60% of the people inside the Rohingya camp, they are actually under 18, they are quite young. So this could be one of the reasons. And another thing is the contact tracing is heavily maintained. Whenever they are suspecting anyone, they just bring them to the isolation center and tracing whoever contacted with them. But still the people inside the camp, they don't bother it.
So what about you though, Rocky, behind the camera? I mean, was it strange talking to people not taking precautions when presumably you were fully kitted out in some kind of biosuits and PPE?
When I entered inside the camp with fully protected gear and everything, I thought I am the alien inside the camp actually. And people are looking at me like I was walking on the moon. So they just laughed at me actually.
I bet they did. So you're kind of like the man from Mars who strangely speaks their language, Rohingya.
Probably. That's why maybe the boy, Naeem, talked to me actually. The man from the Mars is speaking to me.
But seriously, were you not afraid of contracting the virus on this side?
Now, take the third exit from the roundabout.
Yeah, they were taking my picture actually. Who's the guy? Why he's wearing this kind of stuff inside the camp? And I was really feeling shy, but there was nothing to do because they are taking my picture, and if they put it on the social media or somewhere else, and if my boss noticed it, maybe he will be very angry. So actually I was feared my boss rather than the COVID-19 actually.
BBC Bangla's Shanewaj Rocky taking us behind the scenes at the Cox's Bazar refugee camp in Bangladesh. This is the 5th floor, the place and the programme from the BBC where you get to know our reporters and their stories a little better. Time to revisit our regular series My Hometown, where we ask our journalists to take us to the places where they grew up. Today, Chayat Yangchan of our Thai language service takes us to Samut Prakan, downriver from Bangkok towards the sea.
I used to live in a little community in the province next to Bangkok called Samut Prakan. And this province, it may be smaller than Bangkok, but it's nice because most of the city is situated along the river. So I was growing up, I remember having my life involved around this river lifestyle. I get to see people paddling the boat in the morning to sell food, and I even get to ride on the boat taxi to go to school.
Please turn right in 300 yards onto A4.
I'm part Chinese, so we believe in extended family. So I have 12 uncles and aunts, and there's like 3 other cousins that I grew up with. and we become best friends until today. And we always just hanging out together as a family. It's like if you are in a normal family, when you go to the beach, you just drive your car and spend a day. But my grandfather, he hired a whole bus because we are like 30 or 50 of us.
Now turn right.
Eating at the same restaurant, so it look a little bit crazy. But when I look at it today, we are so close that I think it was quite a sweet memory. My grandfather, when he moved,
Please keep to the left in 300 yards, Fort Oxford Circus.
and we call that the river house. I never learned how to swim, so I always watch my cousin swim. Just imagine you sitting by the river, even though it's not a beach, but it's kind of nice. You get to sit in the greenery, and you have to walk through the coconut plantation in order to get to that river house. So for me, that always brings back my good memory. For us, big celebrations
Now keep to the left.
are to make sure that we make a big deal out of it. So every year, my grandfather not only throw a party, but he told us, the kids, to dress up and perform on the stage. And I remember the first time I exposed to Western music, because my cousin said we should dance like a virgin for Madonna on the stage. And we did that. We rehearsed that for.
Please turn left in half a mile, then turn right.
Our house is on the opposite side of Bangkok. So imagine you sitting at the riverbank, looking opposite side of the river is a big river, and you see all those high rises. But meanwhile, you standing right under the coconut tree. It's almost like a big difference that you are in the primitive part, looking at the civilized part. And at that time, I was thinking, I want to be in that part, but we get stuck in this coconut tree. But then again, now that we don't have that house anymore, I kind of miss that. I miss the feeling that I get to have a lunch by the river under the trees. And there is no more river house to go back to since we sold that land. But I remember when we get together 2 years ago, we just walked toward that area. We just want to see how it's like today, and we still remember everything that we did in the past. And nowadays, the riverfront property is very expensive. So nobody get to have that privilege like what we had before.
Home is Samut Prakan in Thailand. Thank you, Jayat Yongcharanchai, for taking us there. Now, Spain's royal family has been going through a turbulent time. Their popularity took a dive nearly a decade ago when the king's son-in-law was implicated in a corruption scandal. Then King Juan Carlos himself was lambasted for going on safari in Botswana during a severe economic crisis. He abdicated 6 years ago, passing the throne to his son Felipe, and now he's left Spain altogether to pitch up a new home in the United Arab Emirates. But his wife, Queen Sofia, has stayed in Spain and seems as popular as ever. Let's find out more. Mar Pichel is a journalist with our Spanish language service, BBC Mundo, and she's written a recent story that translates as Sofia, the professional Queen of Spain.
She's absolutely royal. You know, when I wrote this article, I spoke with some journalists in Spain who cover the royal family, and yeah, all of them use the same word, and this word is professional, and yeah, I think is the word that best describes her.
And why were you interested in writing about her this time?
Well, because she's an important part of the story of Juan Carlos, of course, and this corruption matter. And when Juan Carlos left the country, this is a big thing in Spain, you know. It's a big thing because he was an important figure in the history of Spain, but she was important as well because she stayed with him and she supported him, and I think it was important to know a little bit more about her story.
Why did she not go with him to the UAE though?
Because it's a professional couple as well, you know. But if we talk in romantic terms, the marriage of Sofia and Juan Carlos was over since years ago.
So how do most Spanish people feel about her today?
People in Spain respect her a lot. She is the member of the royal family most valued by the people. So yeah, people in Spain love her.
You say in your piece that it was very different when she first came to Spain back in the early 60s. Tell us why.
Well, imagine that. She was a Greek princess. She didn't speak Spanish. She lived a very different life in Greece. And suddenly she had to live under military rule in Spain. And people saw her as a foreigner.
So that was under the time of General Franco, the military dictator.
Exactly.
In the article, it also says that they were nobodies at the start of the marriage. In fact, you quote Queen Sofia saying that. Can you explain it?
Yeah, it's this thing of uncertainty, you know. Juan Carlos was prince, but nobody at this time knew if he could be king someday. You know, Franco had to name his successor, but nobody knew what was in his mind.
So what happened after the death of General Franco?
Well, before the death, Franco named finally Juan Carlos as his successor. And yeah, when the death of Franco happened, democracy returned, the monarchy was restored, a parliamentary monarchy. So a lot of people backed this institution because they thought only a parliamentary monarchy could bring stability to the country.
And the monarchy became again popular and much respected in the years after Franco's death. How did they achieve that? What was her role in that?
Well, imagine that people had lived under.
Please turn left in 300 yards onto Margaret Street, then turn right.
Most of them knew for first time the freedom, the democracy, and the role of Juan Carlos and of the monarchy of the crown was key.
So Spain now has a king and a queen, but it still has that fairy tale kind of image to it, yeah?
Yes. They were the perfect couple. They had 3 beautiful kids. Yes, it was a fairy tale. Absolutely, in those years.
So when did people in Spain become aware of the infidelity in his affairs, his numerous affairs? Or when did Sofia become aware?
It's hard to say. There were always rumors about that, but people and the press didn't say so much about that.
But apparently those rumors didn't damage his reputation, huh?
His reputation, no, because people in Spain respected him a lot because of his role in the transition from the Franco's regime to the democracy. So, you know, people thought about this as personal matters, and that's all.
He abdicated in 2014.
Yes.
So how did it all go wrong?
Well, I don't know if you remember this episode in Botswana.
This was the safari in 2012.
Yes, the safari. This came out when Spain was among the worst economic crisis in its history. So people were very, very angry. And people knew that he was there with another woman, not with Queen Sofia.
And then this bill about money, which is still being not affect Sofia.
No, this thing didn't affect her at all. People still loving her.
You've told us that, you know, she didn't even speak Spanish when they first married, but now she's totally in there, you know, she's kind of like That's some kind of Spanishness, huh?
Yeah, she always says that she feels Spanish.
But how relevant do you think Spain's royal family is to young people there today?
Yeah, it's complex. I think, of course, there are generational differences. For those who remember the Civil War and Franco's regime, the crown is the institution which brought stability to the country. But for the youngest generation, there are calls for a referendum. They think the Spanish people have the right.
Now turn left.
If they want to continue with the parliamentary monarchy, yeah, there will be a referendum, I think.
And that's Maya Pichel of BBC Mundo wrapping up the first half of the fifth floor. Plenty to come in the second half, so don't go away. We'll be back in just a minute.
Now on the BBC World Service, today's BBC Minute update on the coronavirus.
Hi, it's Andrew and Maura.
The World Health Organization has said it doesn't expect widespread vaccinations against the virus to happen until the middle of 2021. The spokesperson said the final stages of testing need to be done thoroughly to ensure the vaccine is safe.
Amid concerns that certain countries would be...
Now turn right.
The WHO has also said that Africa will get at least 220 million initial doses. The first batch will mainly be for frontline healthcare workers and vulnerable...
Now turn half right.
Affected countries, New Zealand. Officials there have reported the first death in more than 3 months. A man in his 50s died while undergoing treatment.
Meanwhile, filming of the new Batman movie has been suspended again following reports that the lead actor, Robert Pattinson, has tested positive for coronavirus.
And a reminder from the World Health Organization on dealing with the coronavirus: be safe, be smart, and be kind to those affected.
BBC Minute.
And still to come on the fifth floor, why would Vietnam's elite pay millions of dollars for second?
You have reached your destination. Your destination is on the left.
To share with others. Also, some in fact believe that the romantic kindness that you with your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and you open it up and offer it to you. So it has various aspects, but mostly it warms up further a friendly chat.
Something to chew on after the BBC News.